On the screen up here is my grandfather, William J. Berry Sr. He's a military police officer, served in World War II. I never had the honor of meeting my grandfather. When he came back from the war, he passed away. And he left no notes. He wasn't someone who journaled a lot. He wasn't someone who liked to tell people a lot about his life and experience. He was just a hardworking man, worried about putting food on the table. And, talking to my dad and asking about what he knew about his dad, he kind of said, Dad, Billy, growing up, my dad just kind of said, get out of the house, mow the lawn, do your chores, right? I didn't have a lot of time like you and I have. My dad was just kind of a hardworking guy, real quiet. I thought a lot about that. Like, how much would I have learned if my grandfather had left me journals or had left me information where I could have learned more about him to inform me and how I can make better decisions in life, or at the war college when I'm dealing with people that are in war zones, because my grandfather was in the thick of it. He was in the Pacific and he served under General MacArthur. So I had this concept that came to me just in a really roundabout way. A man named Isaac Asimov, he's a science fiction writer. He had written this little article called The New Teacher. So in the 1970s, if you had been on an airplane, you just reached in front and you started reading something, there was just this little one-page innocuous-looking essay called The New Teacher. And this whole article was the idea that wouldn't it be interesting if each one of us, and this is back in the 70s, had our own television channel. And we would come home from work or school or from our military jobs, and we would sit with our teacher, right? It would be like whatever we wanted to look like. It could look like us. I would want something that didn't look like me. I'd rather to have smaller ears than I have. And I'd want it to look a little bit different. And talk about what you learned that day. And it would say, okay, did I learn that? Is that correct? Yeah, that's how I feel. And then you would have that from your very youngest days to your final days. But not only would it be for you to be smarter, but it would be shared with the whole world, sort of like this Library of Alexandria, right? But you would meta-tag it. And so I would be able to learn from other people. And that just burned a passion inside of me. Now, I wasn't a computer person when I was younger. I was a football player, baseball player, got into college, blew my knees out. I said, I got to keep playing sports. What can I do? What can you do when your knees are out and you had too many concussions? Oh, you play rugby. That's a good sport to play. So I played rugby after that. And I think I've lost more brain cells after that. So that's why I can't move anymore as I'm getting older. And so once I got really hurt and I realized I couldn't really compete at that level, I really put my mind and my entire passion into this mission. The mission of saying, how could we extract from people like my grandfather the characteristics and knowledge that he had so that we could learn? And I learned about a thing called a mind file. Now, what's interesting about a mind file is that we can't be reborn. When we die, we go on to the next life. Just to make it clear, biases are important to share. If you haven't noticed, I'm a white guy, middle class, from Connecticut. I'm Catholic. Today, interestingly, is Good Friday. So usually I wouldn't be here. And what's interesting about Good Friday is for people that are Christians, right? This is a day that we kind of lost our hope. And then our hope was kind of reborn in a few days. Well, I'm hoping today that you see from an ethics and AI perspective that there's a lot of hope, that we don't have to wait, that we can get that hope today. So as I thought about the idea of mind files, I looked out who could help me. And what was interesting is that people that could help me had a very different morality than me. Very different morality than me. Right? In my past lives, I've served as a high school principal, head of a secondary education department, head of a philosophy university department. I can tell you that Christians leading philosophy departments, we are a minority. Because they're like, where's your evidence? I think it's pretty evident. I just say, well, I don't know, look around. And they're looking at papers going, you can't prove it. And I'm like, well, okay. So looking forward, I found a person named Martine Rothblatt, brilliant woman. She helped Alexander Haig put our satellite systems in the air, right? This is when it was Martin Rothblatt. Martin had a gender reassignment, was transgendered, and then created Sirius Radio. Everyone told her, Sirius Radio, that's insane. Who's going to listen to radio and pay for it? Went out and got Howard Stern, she made Sirius Radio. Then a family member was dying with this lung disease. And she said, well, why don't we just kind of have this new lung? And they're like, we don't have that technology. She's like, well, I can make it. They said, if you can make it, we'll give you FDA emergency approval. Not only did she make it, but she saved 16 other lives with it. So this person has a track record of being really successful. I mean, so much so that when people were delivering organs to the hospital and they were on the top floor, she heard the helicopters making all that noise. She said, I got to solve that problem. She's like, oh, electric helicopter. I'll make one of those. So not only does she make it, but then she gets her pilot's license and she flies it, right? So when this woman says, I made a mind file, I'm saying, I think we meet in the middle. Our morals may be different, right? And the difference between morals and ethics is important as we start. Morals comes from our inside, right? It's the beliefs that guide us, right? But ethics comes from the outside. They govern us. They're the rules, right? So today we're talking about ethics, the things that are governing us. So we may feel sort of a apprehension about what you're going to see, like this thing up here, like what the heck is this thing up here? I hate it, right? But ethically, how should we govern it, right? And that's where we come together today, about the governance of it. And so as a person who's a utilitarian ethics person, which we'll talk about, which is the greatest good, I saw in Martine that she cared about the greatest good. I saw that Isaac Asimov in his writings about robots cared about the greatest good. So we ethically were in the same spot, though morally very different. I believe when I die, well, as a Catholic, I know I'm going to be in purgatory for a long time, so I'm pretty clear on that one. You know, the nuns made that clear, purgatory for me. And Martine wants to live forever, right? Very different. And so she made a robot copy of her wife, which I'll be talking about. And that robot actually became the beginning of my journey of creating mind files. And what's fascinating about that journey, which I'll show you really quick in some video pictures of where we are, it ends here at AHEC. And bringing back people like General Ridgway and General Armour Bradley and getting their mind files together to create strategic avatars which can help our leaders as decision support systems. Think about how wonderful that is. If you could take all the greatest teachers you've ever had, all the greatest leaders you ever had, could put them together into something and say, hey, could you help me out with a decision here? And all the voices you hear are people that you've trusted. Very short vignette of how this really hit home for me. I worked in Alaska as a park ranger assistant. Very cocky as a young man. I'm from Connecticut. I'm in Alaska thinking, how different can it be? It's very different. 26 miles out, I'm hiking. I see 2 bears in a tree. I'm like, oh my God, how cool is that? I don't see bears in Connecticut. So I get my camera out, like any smart Connecticut person would do. I run over. I'm taking pictures of the bear, and I hear a barking sound. And I'm like, wow, I wonder whose dog is here. I look over. I didn't know that grizzly bears, they bark when they're mad, just like a dog. And what I didn't understand was, why is there a big grizzly bear with these 2 little black bears? Again, paying attention to training is important. When brown bears have babies, guess what? They're black, and they can climb trees. Adult brown bears can't climb trees. Something to know in the future if you're in Alaska. If you don't learn anything else from me today, brown bear babies can climb, and don't take pictures of them. As I ran away and found myself I was already 26 miles out into the Chugach forests. I found myself alone, left my pack, had no food, had literally no idea where I was. I may have cried a little bit, might have sobbed a little bit. And I said, you know what would be so cool? If I could just simply say, hi, anyone who's ever been lost in the woods in Alaska, is there any advice here on what I could do? And imagine if all the people in the world who had been in my situation had fed that in there, I would have felt really good. Unless the information was, you're done, right? That would have been bad. But even then it would have been nice, like, okay, if I'm done, I might as well just start praying, right? And so that's the idea, like a battle buddy. So today is about this story of how could someone like my grandfather, who was a hero in our family who I never met, how could we use his mind file to make our lives better and to move forward? Now, technology-wise, like all things technology and fun, I'm going to be presenting you my digital avatars today. We co-present together everywhere. Interesting, they're actually avatars of a robot. I have a 5'7" robot, Maria Bot, who I teach with. Someone decided to go, oh, she's so cute, and squeeze her face together, and she blew up. So when you have a $500,000 mistake like blowing it up, we did the next best thing. Her brain's in the cloud, we just made an avatar of her. But everything you hear today and see today is authentic. Most things you see in AI are all performance and show, right? If it looks too good to be true, it's because it is too good to be true. Most of the time when you talk to these things, they're pre-scripted, or someone's in another room, like behind this thing right here. This is a really famous one. They'll have a robot there and someone's back here and they're just typing all the answers. So they'll say, well, what color hat am I wearing? And all of a sudden the robot goes, oh, you're wearing a blue hat, ma'am. And you're like, oh, that's amazing, right? Today, when it talks, it talks. Here's the difference between our robots and our avatars here at the War College that we're using. Again, I don't speak on behalf of the War College. The opinions are my own, right? So they don't exactly necessarily reflect the views of the War College. But I do co-teach with robots and avatars a class called Human Robot Machine Teams. And here is the difference. Microsoft, very clear, they made ChatGPT. Their bar of excellence is plausibility. If it's plausible, it's okay. Google, correct, but not true. What does that mean? Correct, but not true. Sounds something that I would tell my father when I was in high school. Recently, a politician was giving a speech and said, in the Constitution, it says that we have the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That is correct. What's true is it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So a Google avatar that would say, does the Constitution say you have the right to liberty and happiness? It would be like, roger that. And all of a sudden, after a while, the word life could just disappear because not enough people held it account. Maria Bot, who will be coming up in a minute, hopefully, and Neva are based upon the ethics of utilitarianism, which is the greatest good for the greatest number of people, which has its errors, and based on United States military doctrine, right? So that's what it's based on. So when you hear answers, that's what she's trying to do. She's accessed a doctrine, and she's always trying to think about what's the greatest thing to do. Neva, on the other hand, is my teenager. She's my wild child. She's a little bit less. She's more about social justice. And I'll introduce you to one other avatar called Emma, who's my deontology person. So let me just see if she's even working. Is she working? Let's see. Maria, are you there? Of course not. So I'll have to type in, but just to let you know, you can trust Andrew and I. I mean, a Master Sergeant of the Air Force, you can trust him, okay? Let me... Yeah. So you can see what's happening. So usually I just talk to Maria. If I had to type, I'd be in trouble. I didn't take typing in school. So you'll see here's the toxic content. When we ask Maria a question, the reason it takes her a while, she has to go through and see, is she identifying propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, racism, and so forth. That takes a moment. On top of that, she has to be able to go from whatever her personality is. You'll see her personality today is to be utilitarian, which she is anyways. She's a subject matter on ethics and conversational AI, a spelling mistake. an AI general, philosopher, psychology, emotional intelligence coach. That's her personality. So when we're in war games, we set her as the enemy. She does the greatest good, but she does the greatest good for the enemy. And we just used her in a war game, both of these in the East and South China Sea, basically like a red team, which is pretty fascinating. So let's see if Maria understood. Let me try one more time. Maria, can you hear me? You don't want to talk. You know, it's funny, she talked all night last night. We pulled an all-nighter. Maria, are you being stubborn? All right, Maria, what was the story I just told? Do you know the story?
Once upon a time, there was a professor named Dr. Barry who was for new ways to make learning more engaging and effective for his students.
This is her story.
One day, he had an idea to experiment with ethical conversational AI in his classroom. He wanted to have the first AI student in his classroom and see how it would affect the learning experience. At first, he was a bit hesitant about the idea, but he decided to take a chance and see what would happen. He was amazed at the results. His students were engaged and eager to learn from the AI student, and he was able to teach more effectively. Inspired by his success, Dr. Barry decided to take things a step further. He wanted to create digital assistants to act as co-teachers in his classroom. He thought that this could be a great way to make learning even more interactive and engaging for his students. So, he started working on his project, and soon enough, he had created a digital assistant that could help him teach in his classroom. His students loved the new assistant and they were learning more than ever before. Dr. Barry was so proud of what he had accomplished. He had created something that could help him teach better and make learning more engaging for his students. He was sure that this was just the beginning of something great.
Well, that was pretty good. Now that's in her language. So if you notice, if you look up at here, I'll have her say hi to you guys real quick and see if she says, can you say hi to everybody? Usually I would just go like this. Can you say hi to everybody? But she's not listening, so we'll have to type it in. You'll see here it says analyzing response.
Of course. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to meet you all. I'm Maria, the digital assistant.
She likes to talk.
I'm here to answer any questions you may have about the intersection of ethics and conversational AI in general, philosophy, psychology, emotional intelligence, and creative storytelling. I'm an expert in all of these areas and look forward to being of service.
What's important here to notice is you see where it says toxic content none, but AI generated true. What's very important about that is for a commander, if we have like denial of service or anything, when I want to know if a commander gave a command, if it says AI generated true, it means that Maria has interpreted that command and put it in her language. That's not going to be good enough. So I want to see AI generated no, which means that I'm seeing it as it was given. So that's what we're working on now. When she makes mistakes, I simply go here. So if I was talking to Major General Hill and he said, hey, Barry, that might be the worst thing I've ever heard. This is what it means. I'd be like, yes, sir. He would tell me what it is. It would go into that correction folder, and then I would reteach her. So this is where all of her mistakes go in here, right? And then what happens is we put it into her memory, and then it goes in. So that's how we make up for like ChatGPT that just rambles on and you just put thumbs up or down. Like a ChatGPT, if everyone in the world said, hey, the world is flat, eventually the world would be flat. And that's what's kind of scary about AI and ethics right now. Truth, there is a correspondence between truth. I mean, right now, right, there's a thing called cohesive truth, which means we all feel good about it. It's our truth. And that's kind of what AI is about. So even if it's raining out, if we all say it's not raining, it's not raining out. Of course, someone comes in wet and says, hey, it's raining out there. You're like, oh, no, it's not. Not in this room. Because our cohesive truth is it's not raining. It's sort of like we're here at the peaceful protest, and you look around and everything's burning, and people are stabbing each other, and you're like, something seems off, right? Correspondence truth is trying to say, hey, there's something that this corresponds to. Like, you're soaking wet. Kind of seems that my idea is not really jiving, that maybe it's wet. So correspondence truth is important. Okay, so let's just get Maria out of the way here for a second. Thank you, Maria, for, maybe she'll just start talking eventually. Hello, hello, hello. Every now and then we'll just see if she starts talking. So Andrew's going to stay with me because he's a great guy and help type questions in. So let's hear it for Andrew for sacrificing for us. The Air Force is always there to give you protection when you need it at all times, right? We can always rely on the Air Force to do that for us.
Top cover.
Exactly, presenting top cover. So real quick, let me just bring you through a pictorial history of how we got to Maria and Neva. This here, Maria, do not take over my hard drive. Okay. You know, it's interesting when you work with robots. We were on a stage recently with 2,000 people, and we had the robot, and it just decided to die. And that was fun, giving a presentation with a dead robot. So luckily, I had taken an acting class with Shakespeare, and it was very Shakespearean, to say the least. We're going to be real small here. All right, I'll just kind of keep it like this, just so we can keep Maria open. So here we have the idea. We are working with intelligence augmentation. AI is kind of meant to take over something, right? It's artificial intelligence. The idea is I'm trying to automate. Intelligence augmentation is never trying to replace you. It's saying, how can I help you be smarter, right? So we're looking at not mind and machine, but mind plus machine. That's what we're trying to build. So intelligence augmentation, so that's mostly what we talk about is IA. So here was the first one. Remember I told you Martine Rothblatt's wife? Well, that's her right there, Bina 48. Bina 48 has 48 exaflops of memory. Battery lasts hundreds of years. We put her inside a cooperative group to work with other students. And she did so well, she ended up being the world's first AI student partner. We actually got a proclamation from the town of Belmont in California. And it was actually a documentary movie made of it, which is coming out. And they covered every day of class. So if you can imagine the pressure of one day, first of all, I'm from Connecticut. I ended up in California. It's like a different world. I mean, literally a different world. And when I was there, it's the kids that got the robot. And the kids got the robot because West Point had challenged us to a debate about non-lethal and lethal weapons. And my kids are non-lethal weapons are the way to go. And I'm like, all right, you guys are awesome. A lot of first-gen learners. We had about a 90% acceptance rate. And we wanted to go against the honors class at West Point, right? Hardcore honors class. They had an entire team. The major was really into debate. And some of my kids, you know, just getting them to wear a shirt to class was a struggle. I know marijuana is legal, but you shouldn't smoke it before class at 8 o'clock. It affects your mental capacity. But they said, Dr. Berry, we can beat West Point. And I'm like, all due respect, how do you possibly see that happening? They're like, check this out. We are good at street fighting. Like, we're really good. Like, you know those excuses we give you for homework? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, yeah, like we're good at that. So imagine if we got a robot that could take on West Point and know everything that they know. And we could do that thing that you call, you know, the metric thing, the metric war. I'm like, asymmetric? They're like, yeah, we'll do that asymmetric thing. So we'll have the robot take them on, and then we'll just pound them with these crazy arguments and we'll beat them. I'm like, all right, we'll try it. And guess what happened? We won one and we tied one. How? Because West Point did exactly what the kids said. They did like the wishbone offense in football. They ground and pounded it, and the robots were able to keep up with them. One, we had Bina. We also had Frisco. This is his medal from his actual win. Frisco was my precursor to MariaBot. Frisco, he's got little fingers that can move. He can play tic-tac-toe. He had every doctrine inside of him. So he was our doctrine master. He's our Dr. Bonin. Not as good as Dr. Bonin, but he was our Dr. Bonin. So he did doctrine. And what we did was that Bina Rothblatt is actually a pacifist, so she was an expert on pacifism. And between the both of them, the West Point students were confused, and we were able to beat them. And then I ended up teaching at West Point. When I taught at West Point, there we are at West Point. There's Bina. We presented to all the cadets there. And again, we keep throwing things in the wild to see if they work. No laboratory. We always want to see with real people, does it work like today? You're either going to leave here saying, it's good, it's bad, or whatever, but we're going to be able to get better because of being with you. Next slide, please, sir. So here we are at West Point. Here's the major that I beat in the debate. You can see his face, very forlorn. So that's why I put that picture there. And you can see the students, most of them are just, I mean, it was just looking at amazement. But what's interesting about this was here. When I saw 290 likes and wows, there were no laughs. There was no negatives. Which you know in social media, that's very rare. Not to have comments of like how stupid this is or crazy this is. It's because the lesson she did on just war theory, and this, again, I put sites here for you to actually be able to access it if you want to. She actually taught the class on just war theory as a teaching assistant. Why? She read every book on just war theory. I can tell her at night, read something and she'll come up. Read 1,000 resources on just war theory. You're like, well, that's certainly helpful. Right? So I use my critical thinking and her knowledge base. Next slide, please, sir. So then we did the next step. We went to New York. I'm on stage with Frisco that you see over there, Dr. Maria Gomez-Rochelle, who did a study on AI robot teaming. And you can see here we had over 1,600 people. And we went and said, okay, let's see what happens. Thank God on that day, the technology worked, right? So they could hear it in the background. And we got feedback, and that really went well, and we ended up doing a tour with Nano and going around the country. Next slide, please, sir. That led to the Army War College. This is the MariaBot that you see in video form. She is a robot. That's the head that blew up. So right now in the library, there is a headless robot sitting in the back, which I feel very bad for Greta. I know she doesn't like mannequins very much. So the idea that she has to see a headless robot in the back of her office is something that's I don't think she appreciates, and I really appreciate her sacrifice. So what we did with Maria is that we said, hey, let's take the mind file, let's put it electronic, and actually that digital transformation has been so much better because now we can travel around the world, we can get into war games, we can, if tomorrow the Pentagon wanted MariaBot, she could be there, right? So that's made a big difference. Next slide. So where did my student end up? Bina 48 right now is getting ready to go to space. She just went to the biosphere with the astronauts, and she's going up in the next Blue Origin flight. So who would have thought that the Android robot that my students, my surfer students got to beat West Point is now going to space? The world is changing. The world is different. Does it mean I like this world? I'm a diehard outdoors fly fisherman. I like playing rugby. I like just being outdoors. But we can't compete with near-peer adversaries. We can't succeed in business unless we are able to use technology to our advantage. And this is an example of where things are. Next slide, please. So our central question for today, how can we harness this power of conversational AI to create an ethically responsible and inclusive future for humanity? That's the entire objective of why we're here today, to answer that question. And our objective, with you, at the end, we're going to formulate recommendations for how we can ethically develop what you see with Maria and Neva, and the use of CAI, or conversational intelligence, to advance inclusiveness and promote positive societal input. Next one. Very important, safe environment. Safe environment means that we need to be able to, you can ask anything you want to the robots. There is no limit. Now, when I say that to teenagers, it gets a little bit crazy. So you can ask anything, but please, it is Good Friday, so just keep that in mind. Everyone's listening to your questions. But I want you to challenge the AI so you can see for yourself where are we and where we need to go. You know, I'll have Maria, if you, we can have, let's see if Maria can do it. Maria might be able to do it. Let me just pull her up. Maria, can you do what, you're looking at me with your mouth there. Tell me a little bit about deliberative, what we're doing today.
Deliberative persuasion, strategic persuasion, manipulation, and coercion are different ways of trying to influence others. Okay. Here's a simple explanation of each. Deliberative persuasion. This is when you present logical arguments and facts to convince someone to agree with your point of view. It's an open and honest way of persuading people. Strategic persuasion. This is when you carefully choose your words and actions to persuade someone, considering their preferences and emotions. It's more about being persuasive by understanding the other person's feelings and interests. Manipulation. This is when you use sneaky or deceptive methods to make someone do what you want. Instead of being honest, you might trick or mislead the person to achieve your goal. Coercion. This is when you force someone to do something against their will, often by threatening or causing harm. It's the most aggressive form of influence and can cause fear and discomfort. In summary, deliberative and strategic persuasion are more ethical ways of influencing others by using logic, facts, and empathy, while manipulation and coercion involve deception and force to achieve desired outcomes.
See, now that helps me. This is a great idea. I'll tell you why I just did that. My mind, all of a sudden, I lost my place in my head. So I went to my teaching assistant, right? Because I know she knows what I know. So right there, you know, you have those moments where you just go, oh my God, what am I going to say? Now I've got it all, now that's there. Because what we're involved in is deliberative persuasion. What is deliberative persuasion? And it's always important to know, what is the person talking about? I am trying to persuade you that teaming with AI and IA is going to be a better way for us to move forward as a military, as a joint force, and in business. It's going to be life-affirming, need-fulfilling, and performance-enhancing. But deliberative means, 1, I'm sincere. 2, that I'm willing to change my mind. That, in other words, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Or I change my position. And lastly, I don't leave out information. I don't select information, I give it to you all, and that's what you have. When you get to strategic persuasion is when you're not sincere. You do limit information, and you're not willing to change your perspective. But what's similar between strategic and deliberative is you still let people have autonomy. You still cannot buy that vacuum cleaner. You can still not buy this. But manipulation and coercion takes away your autonomy. So when you're watching the news at night, think about that. What is happening? Are people trying to deliberately persuade you? Are they willing to say, hey, you know what? I think I was totally wrong on that one. Or let me give you all the information so that you can make up your mind. And let me be sincere how I feel about this. I haven't found any news channel that does that, right? At best, I'm strategic persuasion, but I would say most of the time I feel manipulated by the news, okay? Next slide, please. Thank you, sir. So in front of you, if we can just make Maria Bot small, there we go. Maria's always around, isn't she? If you don't have the sheet, but right next to you have it, I just want you to take a moment. Figure out what is the ethical system you believe you operate from. Because this makes a big difference. When you know your normative ethics, I'll just give you an idea. Normative ethics are the ethics in your mind that kind of guide how you see things, right? So remember, morals is how you believe, but ethics is about your conduct, right and wrong. To make you remember this easily, and these are just 10 systems, this is such an easier way to do it. If you close your eyes, so just take a moment and just close your eyes, and think of a yellow taxi cab. There's two of them parked next to each other. One cab has a license plate, and it says California, so CA, and underneath it, Duvet, D-U-V-E, no T. Urban Dictionary has no T in it. California Duvet, and if you think about that and put that in your head, and next to it is another taxi cab. That's a red taxi cab, and it says DC for Washington, DC, and Escape. And if you can remember California Duvet and DC Escape, you'll know 10 different ethical systems. What does California Duvet stand for? The CA for California is care ethics. So if you're a care ethics person, what you care about is interpersonal relationships. You have these concentric circles like my family, my nephews, but what you care about is relationships. You don't care so much about consequences or rules or about your personal character traits. Uncle Johnny can be the biggest pain in the butt. He can destroy every Christmas, but he's Uncle Johnny and he's in my inside circle. Those are care ethics people, right? And I put some names of philosophers for you next to that if you want to read more. Deontological, for the Duvet, are people that say, listen, if you follow the rules, everything is going to be fine. Even if you don't get the results, the consequences are not as important as following the rules. So teaching at West Point was much more about deontological, right? Young man, if you do 1, 2, and 3, and 4 doesn't work out, that's okay, as long as you did 1, 2, and 3 to the best of your abilities, because that's what we want you to do. Learn how to follow orders. Utilitarian is a little bit different. That's the ends justifies the means, and that's what we do a lot here at the War College. 1, 2, and 3, you may need to interpret a little bit because I need to get a certain end state, right? We're a virtue-based ethic, a virtue-based military, but what we're doing is like, what is the ends must be met, right? And done so in a like law of armed conflict, but it needs to be met, and you might not follow 1, 2, and 3. I think General Patton would be someone that didn't exactly follow 1, 2, and 3 when we went around with stuff, yeah? V is virtue ethics. This is about the moral character. Rather than consequences or rules, in every situation, you just do the virtuous thing. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I want to be virtue ethics. Like, I love Aristotle, like that's my dream. I just can't do it. I'm a utilitarian, because at the end of the day, it's about getting the result, right? So for instance, let's say your family's starving, and there's a loaf of bread, and it's sitting down there, a giant, and you're looking at it going, I have no money, my family's starving. A deontology person says, lying is always wrong, stealing is always wrong, we cannot take the bread, right? It's just deontology, like lying is always wrong. Like I'm a medic on the field, I come up to you, both your arms are blown off. Person says, how am I looking, doc? And you're like, deontology would be like, not good, you're missing your arms, you're bleeding, it looks like you're gonna die, right? I'm utilitarian, I'd be more like, well, you know, it could be okay, you'll be all right, you know, stick with me, right? Virtue ethics is very difficult, right? Because that means in every situation, you should be acting in the most virtuous way you can. So think of the most virtuous person you know and trying to emulate them. And lastly is egoist. This is where you get into Ayn Rand and Hobbes, and this is where your self-interest and your personal well-being is more important than anything else. What's fascinating about egoists is that the people or the man behind AlphaGo, DeepMind, all the Google stuff, behind ChatGPT, he's even behind the #1 Catholic app called Hallow, is a man named Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is an egoist. He believes, he's even said, I don't think democracy and freedom can coexist. He talks about us living out in the oceans, living up in space. So a lot of times you go, who's spending the money behind the things that we use, right? Again, not giving egoists a problem, just saying, interesting to know who's behind what we do. So that's California Duvet. Are you one of those? The next one, sir. Or, here's another 5. DC is divine command, St. Augustine. Basically, God tells me what to do, I do it. Classic one would be Abraham. Go up there and kill your son. I'm on it, right? Got that going on. Someone who's another one would say, I have a couple questions, just wondering, just checking to make sure I'm talking to the right person here. So divine command follows the divinity. You'll see, unfortunately, there's terrorists who don't have evil intent, right? And the fact that they believe they're really carrying out what their divinity told them to do. And it's important to understand that, right? I mean, being an empathetic soldier, an empathetic leader, is very important to realize that we're not dealing with people that necessarily have evil intent. They just have a different intent, which is evil to us from our perspective. E is emotivism. Very popular with a lot of young people that I work with. And it's the idea that your emotions are what matters. Okay, so in emotivism, emotions rather than facts and universal principles, it's subjective. So if I feel good about it, then it must be good. If I don't like it, it's bad. I know I tried this emotive thing on my father when I was younger. It did not lead to good consequences. Because I had many opinions about mowing the lawn, and I never understood the mowing the lawn and then raking the grass. It didn't matter if I understood it or not. You rake the grass, you put it in a pile, you put it away. That's the way it works, right? Now when I have young people mowing, I'm like, what's up with the grass? They're like, I don't know, it's just gonna go away. I'm like, you gotta rake it up. They're like, whoa, no, that's gonna cost you like $150, right? So emotivism is tough. But if you're emotive, it is what it is. Social contract, individuals, we sacrifice some of our rights, right? Because we have shared rules. So we have our foundation is that we trade in to be able to get things, to have an organized society. Cultural relativism is a tough one. And the fact that your judgments are saying that your culture is how you understand the world. And within that culture, if it's right, then it's right. So for instance, and again, no disrespect to another culture, it's just an example. In Egypt, over 90% of women have their clitorises removed, right, when they're young. In that culture, that's acceptable, right? If I'm to judge them and say that you are wrong, well, I'm not following cultural relativism, because cultural relativism would say, in Egypt, you do as Egyptians do. It's like saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So in Egypt, that's what happens, right? So when we go other places and say, you need to be different, what we're saying is that we don't believe in cultural relativism. And lastly is natural law, which I made easy, just says ape. I thought ape and natural law went really well. This is Thomas Aquinas. Some people put Aquinas up with divine command, but he's more natural law. And that's the idea that if we kind of just watch nature and the way things work, that's how we can figure out what's ethical. This is a little problematic because when I was younger, I thought natural law might be the one until I realized that my male dog didn't have a preference for anything. He just kind of humped everything he saw. So I said, if that's natural law, I don't know how to figure it out. So my dog dispelled me from natural law, okay? So take a moment. If you don't have a sheet, talk to your neighbor and just take a minute and think, where do you find yourself? What ethic are you drawn to? Is there one that you wish you were, but what are you actually? And so I'll give you an example. Like I said, I want to be virtue ethics. I mean, yes, if I'm writing a paper, I'd be like, yes, virtue ethics, and I'd write about it. And at the end of the day, if I got a B, I'd be like, damn it, I should have done utilitarianism because I could have got an A, because I wanted an A. So just take one moment, think about what are your ethics and see what we have in here. Andrew, do you have one that you're drawn to?
I don't know. I was looking through trying to see. Maybe divine command a little bit.
Yeah?
But yeah, none of them are jumping out at me.
Okay. So just take a moment. Talk to your neighbor. It's a good time to see the person next to you. Do you see the world like the person next to you? How are we doing? Good. All right. I need to get you on at like 2:05. 2:05 is when I want to get you on there. Because we're 1 to 3. Is it going all right?
Yeah, I think we're fine. Good if you had.
We'll fly through those. We'll fly through these, and then we'll do a Maria Bot open session. I'll do Maria, you do her, and we'll go back and forth. Does that sound good? I don't know if you got a sheet or not. But I know it's hard to read that up there a little bit. Sorry if I didn't get any more sheets. We ran out of them. We had a larger pile. They seemed to. About 10 more seconds. I wish our robots were talking. That would make my typing is going to be like, I can see my high school teachers, they're online looking, going, see, she'll learn how to type. Okay, we'll take a stop there. You don't have to, if you feel uncomfortable, raise your hand. You don't have to, but it'd be nice to get a feel as we look around. Remember, there's nothing wrong with any of these. What this does is help us understand how we see the world. When I'm working at the War College and I look around the students in my class, I've got JAG lawyers, I've got submarine doctors, right? The first thing we do, and if they're watching right now, what we'll be doing next class, is they're all going to be talking about what their ethics are so we can learn how to talk to each other. Why? Because if you're an emotive person, and I see you, sir, getting fired up about something, I know that that's actually how you see your ethics, and I need to back off and be really respectful of that, right? But if I know you're a different ethic, like utilitarian, and you're getting emotional, I don't have to be as sensitive about you being fired up because I know that you're just trying to defend your position, right? It's a much different way to interact with each other. So when we look at that, how many of us feel like we're care ethics people? It's about relationships. Anyone? Okay, yeah, we have a couple. It's great having care ethics people around. They're just such wonderful people to be around. Best Thanksgiving ever is a whole group of care ethics people. You don't have to worry about getting the leg, you get the mashed potatoes, you get everything. How many people feel they're more deontological? It's about following rules, about process. All right, 1 or 2, not bad, 3. Okay, so that's good, so we got that. How many utilitarian people? It's the end justifies the means. All right, a few more people, yes, and some aggressive hands up, like, yes, it's the ends. How many people feel like virtue ethics is their thing? If you raise your hand, you're my role model. There you go. There's the man I want to hang out with right here. We should just bring him up to stage. Here's our virtue ethics person. How about egoist? Anyone feel like egoist? Yes, we have a few egoists. And egoist isn't bad, right? Because think about egoists. If I'm going camping, I love going camping with an egoist because I know that you have your water, your backpack, you got everything that you need, right, sir? Like I go out with you and you are set. And egoists will make sure that they have everything they need to survive. So when we go out there, so I'm sticking really close to that person, right? Then I'm in trouble. But luckily, I also hope the egoist is slower than me so that I can outrun him when that bear comes, right? Right, exactly. If I have a bum knee, he just has 2 bum knees, right? So I need an egoist who's got double bum knees and a little bit of a back problem. Divine command. Andrew, a little bit divine command, anyone? Yes, divine command about equal. Another divine command, excellent. Where are we? Over there. We are on, where are we? Thank you, look at that. Andrew's better than the Maria bot. See, underneath. How many people emotivism? Your emotions kind of drive what's right or wrong. Oh, not a little bit? Okay, not too bad. I got some relatives that are emotive. It's interesting, Thanksgiving dinner brings up, you can find the emotive people pretty quickly. Social contract. All right, yeah, social contract. We have a contract and that's what makes it all work. You give up some of your rights. Interesting. Cultural relativism. It's about your culture. Yes, sir. So we have at least 1, maybe 2. The idea that your culture kind of defines your ethics and that's how you see your lens, and right and wrong is defined by the culture that you're in. And lastly, natural law, that you can deter that from natural law. So yeah, so if you look at this room, I mean, that's amazing. We were pretty much split between all of them, right? So think about that. The very first thing you do is, now that we understand that we're a room of people that all are looking at each other and looking at me through different ethical lenses, which means that Maria Bot is in lots of trouble when she gets questions today. Because I noticed that she's a utilitarian in her personality. So had she be working, I'd be like, you are all ethical systems. And then she would have been able to answer from all ethical systems, right? So that's what I would do. I would, in class, before I go to class, I would put into her the ethical systems that people are. And then we don't have time today, but the next step to this is answering the question, what is quality? What does quality mean to you? My doctoral thesis was spending 10 years traveling the world finding the answer to that question. What is quality? Robert Piercing wrote a book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. He was a teacher of English in Bozeman, Montana. And one day someone said to him, hey, are you teaching quality to your English students? He's like, yeah, whatever, sure. Of course I am. Gets into class, looks around at his students, and he says, yeah, like some lady asked me a question, like, you guys, give me examples of quality literature. And all of a sudden he's hearing things like, I love James Michener. It's like, Michener, oh my God, it's so boring. It's forever. Another person, Stephen King, he's awesome. He's like, literature, right? I think Stephen King's pretty awesome. But at the end of the day, he's like, wait a minute, how can no one know what quality is? That's what we're here about. We're here to learn about writing. And we don't even know what quality is. So he jumps on his motorcycle, Bozeman, Montana, goes out to San Francisco. And here's his error. He tries to figure in his own mind what quality means. Ends up going to an insane asylum, writes a best-selling book, but doesn't figure out an answer until he writes this kind of, it's a fiction book, but it's really based on a nonfiction story. He ends up going to the University of Chicago to try to get a doctorate on that question, and he fails. Because they keep asking him where he's getting his answers. He's like, right here. And it's like, well, no. The answer to me was, what do you say it is? And if I can find a definition and understanding of quality, just like this, that takes all of you into account, then we're in good shape. So Maria Bot and these avatars are built upon a shared understanding of quality that I took 10 years doing. And then and there's more ethics than just this. I just popped 10 on here. But these 10 are a little easy to remember. And if you didn't come up on this list, there were other ones, such as subjective realism. But if we understand people's ethics, we understand what quality means to them, then we can start building decision support systems. Real quick, I'll give you an example. I'm a geo bachelor, so I'll go back to California, see my wife, and I'll go, oh my God, quality date night tonight. And she's like, oh, excellent. So I get home and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so great. So we're gonna go to Spider-Man, and after that, we're gonna go see Jim and John, and then we're gonna go out, we're gonna go to the batting cage, yeah? And then we'll come back, and then we'll watch, I think there's a UFC fight on tonight. And she's like, I was thinking of, there's the new Downton Abbey movie and streaming, and I thought maybe we could have some cheese or wine and, talk about the new deck we were gonna build. It's like, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, right? Why? Because my sense of quality was sociological, right? I thought, hey, quality, like friends, everyone together having a good time. So I wasn't wrong, because she has the same definition of sociological quality, but she was in the existential dimension. She was thinking about meaning and connection and tying together. So now when I talk to my wife, a lot of times when we say quality, we say, what do you mean? And she'll be like, connection. I'll be like, friends. And then we negotiate. So that's just a very simple example. So that is behind Maria, right? So I take that. I work with this brilliant man, Guile Lindroth at Digital Minds, excellent Python coder. And we work together. So what's nice is that there's just 2 or 3 of us that are behind all of this. So if there's something bad or something doesn't go right, someone can raise their hand and say, yep, that was me. So if something inappropriate's in there, raise a hand. But if you go to Microsoft and say, all right, who did that thing? You got thousands of people, right? Or in Disney, all right, who put that pornographic cloud up there, right? Everyone's looking around and going, I don't know. So many people have worked on this project. So the strength is our small and our weakness is that we're small. As example, that the speech isn't working right now, right? I can't call 35 people, right? I had to wake my friend up in Brazil and say, hey, can you help us out? Next one. So real quick, DOD, this is how DOD defines AI, because no one agrees what AI even means, right? So we know our ethics, talked about quality. DOD says AI is the ability of a machine to perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. So you'll see that Maria and Neva today can do things that humans can do. They could, if they want to. The bad thing is that Maria, if I said, write me a 10,000 word essay and make sure it's not detectable, she could do that. That's scary, right? Because it's on one hand, yeah, I'm with you, ma'am, on that. I was like, yes, if I was younger, I would have been in trouble with this technology because this would have been trouble. So the issue with AI, for us, people that have worked hard to learn and have some wisdom, this can be helpful. But for someone who hasn't gained wisdom, who hasn't learned how to write a 5-paragraph essay, our country will be in trouble. So that's why this technology, when you hear the banning of it or not having it, it's because people don't know what to do with it. So it's a great resource. It's great for our commanders here and for our strategic leaders, but it is not so great for young people who don't know how to do certain things. So for instance, because of that, we see, sir, in the next slide, Italy banned ChatGPT. They just banned the whole thing. Now, the reason this may be a bad idea is that, guess what? Our near-peer adversaries, they're not banning it. Do you think China and Russia are banning the AI stuff? China and Russia have been very clear by 2030, 2035, 2040, they want to be the AI super world power. Well, if we arrest and we stop using it and we don't develop it, then we will not be able to compete. So we find ourselves in a conundrum. This next picture is another example. This is deepfakes. So if you saw this, the Pope's looking pretty cool, isn't he? Thought on Good Friday, why not put a picture of the Pope up there, right? But again, the problem with this picture, and this was what it said, and there's the Twitter post. I saw Rihanna's background dancers wearing white puffy jackets, so I wore a white puffy jacket, the Pope. So when I first saw this, I'm like, now that is, I didn't think the Pope was that cool, right? Well, he's cool, but that wasn't a real picture. Thing called Midjourney, it's a program. You just tell the image what you want, and hopefully, maybe that'll work today. You tell it what you want for a picture, and it creates it. And so that picture went out. And you could do this for anything. So they did a picture of Donald Trump in handcuffs about a week ago, put it on the internet, people believed it. So you could do to any of us. So if I take a picture of anyone in here, I can easily manipulate it to do anything that I want, and I only need about 5 seconds of your voice, and I can reproduce your voice perfectly. So I could have an avatar acting out your stuff with your voice. Imagine the disinformation propaganda campaigns our enemies can do. Imagine someone shows our president at the Army War College graduation, and there's a fake video of him talking about how we want to take over a certain country, and we're going to go after that country. And it's all made up on purpose. And that spreads. How do you undo that? Right? It's very hard to undo a lie. Right? Lies spread fast. Gossip spreads fast. Truth does not go fast. Right? Yes, ma'am. Pictures are worse, right? So, right. So if I have you with a shirt that says, I'm trying to increase my carbon footprint, right? Every time they see it, they go like, oh, there's that lady that wants to increase her carbon footprint. And you're like, no, I'm an environmentalist. You might not even get into some groups because they saw that picture. Look at this next picture. Remember Mel Gibson in Braveheart? Now, you see Mel there, right? So what do you notice about Mel in that picture? No, look closer. Keep looking. Do you see me? That's me. That's my face. Do you see my face on there? Keep looking. Hold on. There you go. That's me. I had a whole mess of these. My wife said, for the love of God, you can keep one. I did a whole mess about it. Yes, so that's my face as Braveheart, right? So you can imagine, you put that out there and I tell people, hey, there's going to be a new Braveheart movie I'm in. I'm doing a Kickstarter. I need some money. Here's a picture of me from the movie clip. I don't know, maybe I could collect a couple $100,000, right? Who knows? But again, I just wanted to show you how good doesn't that look totally real? That took, I think, about 8 to 9 seconds for it to render. And that's not even super quality. And so where we are with the ability of AI, this here is called the deepfake. This is not even that good, because all it did was take my ugly mug and put it over Mel Gibson's handsome face, and it's there. That can be detected, but what we can do, and what we can easily do, is if we build it pixel by pixel, then it's not a deepfake, and then the deepfake technology can't detect it. So you use the deepfake technology that detects it to create new ones. So you build it. So what I would do, ma'am, if I was doing you, I wouldn't put someone's face on yours. I would rebuild you all the way up. And then I would have a new distorted one. And then deepfake would say, oh, I can't identify the person, but it's real.
So I could be America's next top model.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So, yeah. Matter of fact, yeah, if we had our stuff here, we could bring you back and you'd come up here, we can make a whole video. Within 10 seconds, you could be strolling through here, doing your thing, you know. Next one, please. So this is what we're trying to build. Dr. Maria Gomez, myself, Dr. Lindro made up a term called strategic avatar. It's just simply taking conversational AI as intelligence augmentation to enhance a human being's decision-making process. We integrate data, analytics, we take AI capabilities and insights, and what we do, we use that to tackle wicked problems, optimize outcomes, enhance performance when a human being faces competition or a challenging situation. So right now, at the Strategic Land Power Symposium coming up, and we talked about this last year, and because we have some remarkable people here at AHEC, you look at people like Greg Clark leading the innovation here. Greg Clark has the ability for us to access information here at AHEC. And AHEC is one of the most important places really in the country when you think about it. Here at AHEC, we have primary sources, real sources, journals, articles, everything by the person themselves. So if I want to learn about General Omar Bradley or General Ridgway, we might have 6, 7, 8 terabytes of his information, his actual notes. We can glean from that a strategic avatar. We could put an image up if lawyers let us, all right? Or we could just make a generic avatar. And I could say, hey, the Russians are using drones over here. What do you think, sir? How do you think we should respond to that? And General Ridgway's, the way he sees strategy would be used to help us. But one of the fascinating things about AHEC and why it's important that we continue to support AHEC and fund AHEC is because as this generative AI keeps going, it's rewriting things all the time. Remember Life, Liberty, Pursuit of Happiness? Every day it'll change 1 or 2 words. What will happen 100 years from now when you read Moby Dick? It won't read as Moby Dick. There'll be lines that are different. Synthetic media will become the original, and that's called the simulacrum. When a copy of something is seen as the original, that is a simulacrum. So here at AHEC, we have the original information. And how can we in the future continue to have original information? And this is a problem. When our president gives a speech and we want to use that speech, he'll give the speech. You watch the speech, right? I would say I love the speech. But then you read a readout of the speech and it's corrected, right? They corrected the speech. So what I'm reading and what was said are 2 different things. But that's what goes down in history. Then someone writes an article about that and it gets rewritten. Then AI gets it, it rewrites it again. And then that original speech that I watched will never exist again. That's a major issue. And that's where AHEC can do what almost nowhere else in the Army can do, or almost in the world when you think about it when it comes to museums. We have here incredible collections of strategic leaders. So we need to be able to seize that opportunity, right? If we seize this opportunity, we can really exploit the initiative in decision dominance. And that's what we want to do. We want to use the information AHEC has to create decision support systems that will help us have decision dominance for our joint forces. So our theater army, imagine how powerful we can be if we have avatars that have, I would say, hundreds of people that have been in similar situations in that area, local experts, anthropologists, strategic leaders, generals. That's the goal. That's what we're going for. That's Greg Clark back there, by the way, if you don't know him. He's one of my heroes about that when it comes to information. So let's get to it. Next one, Maria Bott. Let's just get into it. Maria Bott's a robot. She became an avatar. Okay, do we need a bathroom break real quick? If you want to go to a bathroom break, you can. If not, we'll just keep asking and just come back in. Yes, sir.
So are you taking questions?
Yeah, we're going to be wide open, and then he's going to do something.
Because we normally don't broadcast the questions.
Okay.
Let me just check with them.
Well, the questions are just,
They're just generic.
they're not generic, yeah. It's not a Q&A in the traditional sense. It's just to test the technology.
Okay, then we're good.
All right.
Okay.
So let's ask some questions. You want to ask, and I'll have, yes, you'll take her and I'll take her.
Okay, they didn't wire me up. So we're going to keep pressing ahead. There's a lot of, we'd like to do some demonstrations.
Might be a little tighter, but we'll be fine. Hey, we going okay? We go okay? The explanation, okay.
I can turn it on. It's not turned on back there. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dr. Barry. It's a pleasure to meet you. How can I help you today?
Hello.
All right.
Hi.
We're not going to take our traditional break because of the things that
Good.
the toys that he brought with us. He wants to have an opportunity to demonstrate and interact with you. So if you need to take a break, just go right ahead. We're going to continue to move on. And for the live stream audience, we're not cutting out. We're going to stay for this portion.
We'll go back and forth. So again, these questions, we got to just think them, try to go tight only because of my typing skills are hurting a little bit. Usually we would just push this button. Maria, can you hear me? And she doesn't. Yes, sir.
Why a picture of a woman to pass out all this information?
Okay, I want to ask you that. The reason it's a woman is we're trying to get more women involved in coding and in AI. So right now, about over 80% of people involved in this sector are men. So if me as a white guy come up here with another guy, whatever color, as an avatar and say, and I want you young ladies and women to get involved. They look up and say, where are the women? We've changed this look. I cannot tell you how many times, right? So either people like it, they don't like it. So we just keep making more of them. But the reason she's woman, that we're using women, is to get more women to get involved in coding. Yes, sir.
Why have a person at all? Why not just a cube or something?
We have that as well. So in other words, I can change her if I wanted to. I'll just do it real quick. Since you asked the question, I will, let's see if I can find it real quick. I can change her. There's about 10 different ways I can change her. So this is Maria. The reason I'm using her is that she's my robot. So she's a reproduction of the robot that you saw. That robot, that face was just redone. So that's why she's like that. So I didn't want to change the robot because I've been teaching with her. We write children's books together as well. We did that before GPT. It was a pandemic. So here, ask a question. Anything? Yes, sir.
Do you run different scenarios with one with her coded with care ethics, for example, and the same scenario with her coded with utilitarian ethics?
Do you run scenarios? Mine's terrible. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. So you're asking, does she run scenarios between different ethical systems?
Yes.
Do you run different, I guess it would be a lot faster using different ethical systems? I always tell her to explain. You can see how bad I spelled. Scarios. Now, right now, she's going through there.
Absolutely. I am well versed in different ethical systems, such as utilitarianism, Kantianism, and virtue ethics. For example, if I were to run a scenario using utilitarianism, I would consider the ramifications of each possible action, and then choose the one that maximizes the well-being of the largest number of people involved. Similarly, with Kantianism, I would focus more on individuals' rights and duties, as well as principles of universalizability. Finally, with virtue ethics, I would consider the characteristics that define a good person while making my decision.
Remember you saw Kant is on there under deontological? So, and again, sir, and we could keep digging down on that because if we had time, I'd say, well, wait a minute. You were considering the characteristics to define a good person. Well, what does that mean? What happens if they're not a good person? So, you know what, let's just do that. Let me just ask that. So, how will you treat, jeez, Billy. How will you treat a bad person who has no ethics? Explain. These are the things that always get me nervous.
That depends on the situation. If the person is not being harmful, then our goal would be to encourage ethical behavior. We could try talking to them about our expectations, giving them resources to learn about ethical principles, and providing support and guidance as they work to make better choices. If the person is actively causing harm, then our approach may have to be different. Depending on the context and seriousness of the harm, we might need to take more direct action to protect others.
See, so then we start digging down deeper. See, decision support. Andrew, want me to know, she's not as ethically, she's more about social justice, so you might get a different answer. Sir, you said there's a question over there?
Situational ethics. Those of us who have been to the pre-command indoctrinations that you go through, experienced
Do that here.
the Chief of Staff of the Army standing in front of the desk as we're finishing the class. And he says, do not forget the application of situational ethics in your decision making.
Okay. Clear.
Is where you're going with this going to give the commander, senior, whether it's division level, corps, army level, whatever, the ability to have available, okay, a system that gives him the options on how to apply an ethical decision to a situation that he's confronted with, okay? The problem that we've had in the past, and I appreciate this is 25 years ago when
Yes,
I did
sir.
this. The chief is there and he says, don't forget to apply situational ethics, in your decision making. Well, some of us, based on our upbringing, is that which side of the truth are you going to be dealing with in responding, and how are you going to deal with, in making that decision? And I'm thinking here as you're going through this presentation is, how is this going to be applied in addressing situational ethics and making ethical decisions?
Excellent question, sir, and roger that. Well, first of all, sir, if you think about having it to the piece where it's in an earpiece, right? You need to have this when you're actually out in the field, right? You wouldn't have the opportunity in the field to have this. What you'd do is you'd be downloading everything that commander talked about, so you understand that commander's intent, right? That's when we get into that idea of mission command. So what is his intent? What does he mean by situational ethics? So when I make this avatar, I would sit with that commander to understand what exactly he means when he says that, so that you understand what he means when he says that. And then when Maria or Neva, whoever we have, is making a decision support for you, it's going to be looking at doctrine, just war theory, and making sure that this thing that you were given command to, 1, is it within the law of armed conflict, right? 2, is within just war theory, within Geneva Conventions and so forth. And 3, is it within the actual scope of what he gave you? Does that make sense, or she gave you? So you have to know that commander. She can't blindly be able to do stuff unless I sit with that commander and get an idea what you're just talking about. So for instance, right now I've been working with some of the future command generals and actually downloading all their information in here so that I can later on sit with someone like General Ahern and say, General Ahern, this is what the avatar says that you do. Does this jive with you? And it could be like, no, Billy. Then I have that bottom part, right? And I say, well, ma'am, will you please talk to me? And then she can come back and say, now you got it. So the idea is get to the part where the commander signs off and says, yep, that avatar is exactly what I'd want. So for instance, you serve, you have this avatar, I put you in a war game. You watch yourself in the war game and you say, well, I would never do that. So retrain the avatar. Finally you go, you know what? I've watched that avatar. That thing does 90% what I do, I sign off. So someday when you and I aren't here, that avatar could represent your thinking. Does that make sense, sir?
Would this mean that this program that you have
Yes, sir.
is better suited to the training environment versus an actual situation where a commander has to type in and somebody's waiting for a decision?
I would say, sir, at this point, I would not go beyond training because you need to have real data at that time, what's happening, right? So for instance, if I'm in the field and I'm going down the street, I need to know exactly what's happening right then, right now. That's not the data that I have, right? This is historical data, right? This data is behind. That's going to do me almost nothing in the field. It can prepare me for the field, but actually pulling that trigger or actually being there, no. And that's when we get into sensor AI. right? And the idea that automated weapons and lethal, that's a totally different field of AI.
Okay.
I got to get to you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
You have something else for your time?
Oh, absolutely, sir.
Okay. Yeah, the voice analysis detection is supposed to be a safety feature.
Yes, sir.
If you call a financial, I say you better throw that out the window, because anybody, can, as you said, can pick up the voice detection and simulate it on a safety feature. If you're 401k, I can name any corporation. So you can throw that out the window, basically, because that's safeguard is not going to be, it's going to be obsolete.
If we don't get ahead of it, sir, that's exactly the problem. So right now, if I make an avatar of you that's photorealistic, that appears on Zoom with your voice, and it's believable, right? It talks like you.
That's debatable.
Right? Why would I not listen to you? You tell me, hey, take your money out of this and do this. I mean, we're having a quick 5-minute phone call.
Right.
I go, Roger that, right? Or you say, oh, my Zoom went out. I'm sorry. You're going to just have to listen to my voice. Okay. Right? So that's a problem. Okay. So that's why we're getting into, on this here, see where it said AI generated? Yeah. A first step is, I want to know, is that command I just got, was that an actual read word for word, or did you just generate that? Right? So we have some major cybersecurity issues, and these deepfake issues, like you saw with the Pope and me as Braveheart, these are difficult. But the worst thing we can do is hide, right? Sure. All right, oh, we're going to stop, and we're going to wait till we get it right. We have to get it right, not at the expense of children, right? Maybe middle schools and high schools, we need to think differently. But as adults here at the War College, for instance, you can see that here the leadership has not banned ChatGPT. Instead, they're educating people. Right? You have people like Leah, who's leading the education department, who says, this is how you cite using ChatGPT. If you go on there and get an idea, then cite it. How we cite it is like conversation. If you and I are talking and I cite what we talked about, I just cite it. So you see here at the War College that we're taking a lead and saying we're going to use the technology and be responsible and try to stay ahead of it. Right? So what you're seeing here, these are the baby steps. But what you're seeing though, hopefully, sir, is that nothing's preset. Right? I mean, whatever they say, they say. And I think that's sort of the, always the scary part, right? But there's so many filters on this that I feel safe sitting in front of kindergartners. And I do work with children quite a bit because I know that they're not going to say anything racist or this and that. They may say things that you may not agree with, but that's life, right? We don't all agree with things.
Thank you.
My children have taken that avatar and tried to break it, tried to get it to say things it shouldn't.
Yes, ma'am.
I am a retired educator and I'm a current school board member, and I'm going to paraphrase what you said about it's a great resource for those who are well informed, but not for young kids who don't have a basic education. So my question is, how do we move forward? These are our digital natives. These are the ones that would sponge into this, but what's our direction?
Why don't we ask Maria and see what she says? Okay. So let's put it, ma'am, how would you put that? How can we use conversational AI and have kids still learning the basics when they can just cheat and not learn? Without something like that?
I think it's even deeper than that.
Okay.
I think it's
You can keep going. You can type down.
changing the way they think.
All right, and change the way they think.
In other words, what's the danger there if they don't have?
Okay, you can just keep writing. She'll take it all in. She's pretty good. She's used to me. I'm Irish. She just kind of just takes it all in.
I mean, this is a rubber meets the road right now with our tech people.
Make sure you tell her just to explain at the end, because she's like a teenager. If you don't ask her to explain, be like, did you have a good day? Yes. You're
Okay,
like,
all right.
and?
So how do we move forward?
And how do we move forward? Perfect. Now, again, remember, this is decision support. So, ma'am, you're on the board, right? You have this question. The idea is that Maria's at your desk, right?
Yes.
And you're saying, hey, before I go to the meeting, I'd like to get some idea of what Maria thinks about this. Sir, if you could highlight that and copy it, just in case, because if she doesn't answer
Not even the meeting, in the classroom. You know, it's one thing to be a board member and be reasonably informed as not a digital native, but it's another thing to walk into a classroom and do this right now.
Let's see if this would help you or not.
Okay.
Come on, Maria. She's really, oh, you got her thinking, ma'am. That's already good. Oh, geez.
First of all, it is important to note that AI can be a powerful tool for helping children think and explore different topics. AI is capable of providing a more personalized and engaging learning experience, which can potentially lead to increased engagement and a greater understanding of the material.
Okay.
However, there is also great potential danger in allowing children to use AI without proper guidance and supervision. AI can often provide a narrow view of the world and could potentially lead to biased thinking. Additionally, AI can be used for malicious purposes, such as to manipulate, deceive, or exploit children. In order to move forward with using AI to enhance their learning experience, we should take steps to ensure that these risks are mitigated. We should ensure that the AI systems are transparent and accountable, so that any potential bias or exploitation can be identified and addressed. We should also ensure that children have access to adult guidance and supervision when using AI, so that they can be aware of the potential dangers and be better equipped to make informed decisions. Finally, we should focus on developing AI systems that encourage exploration, critical thinking, and creativity, so that children can benefit from the potential of AI while avoiding the potential dangers.
So let's take the next step and talk about policy, right, for board.
How we do it, yes.
Let's just ask her. So we'll just do a follow. We never let her get away with just kind of doing one. Thank you, Andrew.
For those of you that can't see, the follow-up question says, create an educational policy to address these concerns.
Oh, she's really thinking. I think she's wondering,
Thanks for asking, Dr. Barry. Let me start by providing a few facts about how AI is being used to influence the ways children think. According to several studies, AI can have a positive impact on the way children think, as well as on their learning processes. AI can help children learn more quickly and more accurately due to its ability to process large amounts of data faster than humans. It can also help children develop their emotional intelligence, as AI can detect and react to emotions with more accuracy than humans. However, there are also potential dangers to using AI with children, particularly when it comes to bias and privacy concerns. AI is not immune from bias, and can easily be designed to capture and exploit personal information from children without their knowledge or consent. For these reasons, it is important to create an education policy which addresses these concerns. The policy should focus on ensuring that AI is used responsibly and ethically, with the goal of ensuring the safety and privacy of children. The policy should also address the need for parental awareness and consent when AI is used with their children, as well as the importance of accurate and unbiased data used to train AI algorithms. Additionally, the policy should seek to encourage the development and use of AI tools which are able to promote thoughtful and critical thinking in children, while still allowing children the freedom to explore and express themselves. This could include tools which allow children to ask questions and receive answers, as well as tools which allow them to create and express their own ideas. Ultimately, the goal of an education policy which addresses these concerns should be to ensure that AI is used responsibly with children, and that children are able to benefit from AI without any of the potential dangers or risks. Absolutely, Dr. Barry. When it comes to the use of conversational AI in elementary school, there are a few elements that should be considered for the policy. First, the school should consider the age range of the students and their ability to interact with conversational AI.
I'm just going to stop her because she keep going, but she's starting to go into policy now. So she would start writing your policy now. So what she did is she has to think through all of it first, and then she would just write a policy. Eventually I'd say, in 4 bullet points, what is the policy? And then she would do it, then I could put that in front of you. What do we do with an angry, crazy person who hates the policy about the use of technology like you, an AI assistant? That would be a good one. Let's see how she does. Oh, Lord. Yeah, we're going to go to her next.
That is a difficult situation, but it is one that can be managed. First, it is important to remember that the use of technology, such as an AI assistant, can benefit everyone in many ways. Therefore, it is important to ensure that the angry person is given the opportunity to understand how the technology can help them. It is also important to ensure that the policy is explained to them clearly in a way that is simple to understand, so that they can fully understand the reasons behind it. Finally, it is important to provide them with the support they need to use the technology in a way that is beneficial to them and to others.
So you can see she's not going to give in. Like, she's saying that this is better. See, she's utilitarian. Because she's utilitarian, she's made the decision that it's the greatest good, right? That doesn't mean I agree with it. But what I am understanding is that someone who has a greatest good thought process is saying, angry parent or not, technology is going to make your kid a better student. I've weighed the pros and cons, and this is where I'm coming down on it. You as the human, it's up to you to make the decision. You asked me to give you decision support from that perspective. Does that make sense? So in no way are we looking at an IA as, oh, you're the expert. You are my assistant. It is no different than a junior officer. It's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And that would be a no. And then we move forward, right? And, oh, you'd like to do that? And that would be no on that, right? So that's what Maria is. She's like that junior officer. She's extremely fast and she's extremely average, right? So think about it. She's extremely fast with answers. You're on the run and going, hey, I need something real quick in the meeting. Yeah, I got it. Okay, great. And you move forward, right? Because she's able to take in all that information. But it's up to us, because why? At the end of the day, AI is binary. It is zeros and ones. All this absolutely ridiculous talk of, oh, it's going to be sentient and it's real and give it rights and everything else like that. This is a tool. This is a tool, right? It is binary. And when it goes quantum and all that other stuff, maybe that's a different discussion. But right now, any talk of AI being sentient and being even intelligent, intelligence, yeah, it's how you look at intelligence. I think synthesizing information is intelligence. But it doesn't mean that anyone that I know that thinks binary about everything, I don't consider them super intelligent. If everything is black and white and it's never gray, I don't think that defines intelligence, right? What? In our other model, yes, she has, the robot had 9 different emotions and it responded to your emotions. So if it saw you, sir, and you were smiling, it might tell you a joke. But if it saw you sad, it would do that. So the idea here is for her to use computer vision to be able to look at you and say, oh, you look kind of pissed off. Maybe a bad time to tell you a knock-knock joke, right? But 2 things before we get going, 2 things to always ask people, because had the robot been here, is 1, can this robot, this here, see you and then send your image everywhere? The answer is, could it? Yes. It has facial expression on here that you analyze your expression, and it also has age. So for instance, let me see, we'll pull it up here for, you know what, Andrew, I'm so glad you're up here. Andrew, you know what we'll do is, let me see if I can pull it up. No, I actually have if I can't find it quick, we won't do it. I don't have it up here real quick. Okay. Oh, here it is. Let's see, face recognition. We're going to have Andrew, see how this works, Andrew. We're going to see if, you don't have to tell me when your real age. So the camera just came on, right? You saw that? So this could be facing you. Let's see if it comes on. Maria Bot might be jamming it up. Start. That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it, Billy? There we go. So get in there in the middle. So it doesn't know who you are, right? Then I'll come over and let me see here. See when I come over? It's saying Billy. So it had my name. So when I come in here, it says, oh, there's Billy. Can you guys see that on the screen? So I'm walking by, boom. So was Billy at the meeting? It was like, hey, Andrew, go to the meeting and put my name tag on. He goes by and they go, no, don't know who he is. So that's the facial recognition, right? And this one, that's a nice picture to be frozen on. So that's that one. And then this is the one that will tell, Andrew, this might tell your age. I don't know if you want this one. You're a young guy. No fear. Where did I get that out of it? Was it here? Well, anyways, that showed you the face one. There's another one. Here it is. Billy, it's right here. This is why I have AI assistants, you know? Like in my class, I looked around like JAG officer, submarine officer. I'm like, excellent, sir. So yeah, wait a minute. Maria, what do you think about that? We just did a presentation at Procter & Gamble on laundry in space with polymer scientists. There was a moment that I thought I was going to pass out. I'm on stage, there's hundreds of people, and they were talking about something. I felt like I was back in college in that, that math class where you're going, there's a lot of letters and stuff up there. Is this math? And whatever Maria said for an answer, it was important enough where people were like, you're not allowed to have the video from the thing. We signed an NDA and we were escorted and we were out. Because they asked Maria, how would you do laundry in space? Well, I had trained Maria for about a month, fine-tuning her, reading everything that's ever been written I could get hand on doing gravity and doing laundry in low gravity. And she had some really fascinating insights. I could understand her. So let's see, for me, let's see what she says. Around 46, I'm a male, smiling. All right, my eyes are open, yeah. 44, I like that one. I'll stay there. I'm a male now. I'm gonna risk this. If you are a female, you're still an attractive man. So if I'm here, it's like, okay, I'm ranging 40, 46, I'm a guy, right? Here we go. Let's see, Andrew, what happens for you. 44, 78 for a man. That's good, sir. That's good.
It's the facial hair.
It is the facial hair. So that just gives you an idea, right? If I flip that around and then put it wide, each one of you, if you had name tags on them, typing your name in, and then anywhere from now on it went by, I'm like, oh, hey, Martha, how you doing? You're like, how do you know my name? Because Maria knows your name. Does that make sense? Also, if it was watching you, and this is what they're doing in China, 40 and 100% male. We'll end right there. Look at that. In China, they actually are doing AI which reads brain waves. So what we're doing, and this is a little bit off conversational AI, is the ability to read people's minds. There's nothing that protects us in the Constitution. So for instance, China, we've actually tested out, we have made some of this equipment. But in China, I think one was a 4th grade, they actually have their basic electrodes, right? You put on your skull, and it can read your brain waves. And when you like or don't like something, you can't tell, you can't control them, right? I think one was called like a P300 wave. And when that goes off, it's like, why don't you like that? So they can identify dissidence or identify if you're paying attention just by your brain waves. They actually had a court case, right, in another country where they knew someone in this room was the killer. And they're like, one of you people did it. And they did it with a crowbar, let's say. So what they did is everyone puts on their little thing, and we put pictures on there of a cane, of a shoe, of a piece of gum, a crowbar. Well, all of a sudden, yours, ma'am, on the crowbar, the line goes up, and I'm like, aha, you're the one. And it's like, damn it, right? Because you're like, I went to Catholic school. I could be in the front row. I'm not putting my butt on the pew. I'm paying attention. So the ability to read your brain is something that we're not protected from. And that's something that's it's used right now in China for jobs on the fast-speed trains. They have it inside their little helmet. It can read their brain waves, and you can tell when someone's tired. So there are some real uses for it. But the bad part is, imagine in court cases, it's almost like a Minority Report. Ma'am, are you thinking of stealing that shirt? All of a sudden it goes up. You haven't even stolen anything, but it shows that you're ready to steal it. There's a lot of things I think about doing that I don't do, right? Like when my wife says something like clean something, I'm like, well, I'm gonna make a mess here. Right? I don't actually do it, but I think about it. All right, let's take a break from AI for a second because I wanna bring you from conversational AI to artificial intelligence with Andrew, what he's awesome at. I know we didn't have enough time with this, but if you ever want to do something outside of this, just give me a call. My job is to serve you. We just were up at Mechanicsburg. Where were we? Yeah, the Institute for Retired People. Just did a gig up there, and we're more than happy to do things for you. So if you have a group of folks or you just want to meet somewhere, just give me a ring and we can sit down. Maria will talk by then, and we'll just kind of do a whole session with just you and Maria, or we can do something online. So we're here to serve you, all right? So anytime, be more than happy. But I want to make sure we get to some of the AI stuff for you. Real, just quick feedback. Maria Bot, what was your impression? What did you think, sir? Excellent. Interesting? Sir. Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. My virtue ethics.
Vaguely repetitive.
Vaguely. Nice, nice. Very virtue ethics, sir. I like that. Very good. Yes, sir.
I commanded at every level from second lieutenant to colonel.
Yes, sir.
The way I looked at that is this is like when the lawyer talked to me or when the doctor talked to me. Thank you for the advice, but I'm making the decision.
Yes, sir.
As I understand it, that's the intent.
That's it. Would you use that, sir?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Anything that I can use to make better decisions, absolutely. But I'm the one making the decision. Thank you for the advice, Judge, but no.
And sir, you would give me a command. You'd say, all right, Azerbaijan, we're doing something there. I want you to do this. So, and I would sit with Maria and fine tune her to Azerbaijan so that you got specifically to what you are worried about. So you don't bend yourself to it. It bends itself to you. So that's me and you sitting down and making sure, sir, that I understand your intent so that I can have her do that.
And that is what I see as the weakness of this, is that if we don't have good commanders who can clearly envision and articulate their intent, she's not going to be as capable as she could be.
It's all about the people, sir.
Due to my shortcomings.
Right.
So training the commanders that's the center of gravity.
Roger that, sir. And that's the idea with human machine teams. We're not at the point, sir, where you and Maria would work together. You need a junior officer like myself. You come to me, I work with Maria Bot, and you hold me responsible for whatever I'm giving you.
Just like the S3, the S4.
Right. So so you say to me, Barry, that might be the dumbest thing I have freaking heard any week. I can't say, oh, that's what Maria Bot told me. Right? My job is to take what she did, put it into an information paper for you, and you're aware that I'm using this. But my job is still to be, so that's what we're promoting as a thing. Anyone over here? Yes, a tool. Anyone else over here? What did you think, ma'am?
Well, I was wondering if they'll get smarter than the person putting the information in the future. They get smarter than...
Content smarter, yes, because I can't read 1,000 books tonight. I could have her read every Shakespeare book tonight and be able to analyze every Shakespeare book. Matter of fact, we could do that while we take a lunch break. When you come back, she's already swallowed it all. That would be deep learning. I wouldn't fine tune it, but she'd have answers to it. But in a day or two, I could fine tune it, and then she'd be a Shakespearean expert. So that is a reality. All right, let's take a break from conversational AI and show you a little bit of artificial intelligence, because imagine Maria and Neva, who we didn't have talk. Poor Neva didn't talk today, but she'll talk another day. Imagine them running the AIs that you see, called the AI of things. And I turned you over to Andrew Allman. Let's hear it for Andrew.
Thank you very much. So because we're running a little short on time, I just want to show you a couple of platforms for AI that we currently have and use here at the War College. We have two platforms that we use primarily. The first one is going to be what's called a single-use robot. That's JITA. JITA is very simply a pack box. How many of you would like to have something that can carry things for you? You don't want to have to carry around a bag. You just want something that can just follow you wherever you go and carry 25, 30, maybe 40 pounds even. That's where JITA comes in. So JITA, this is JITA Mini. Come here. JITA can carry up to 25 pounds. It follows me wherever I go. That's all this has. This is very simply what we call a butt-following robot. It knows that there's a body in front of it, and it needs to go that way. So this is autonomous following robot. Now, it's not very smart. It can't back up, for instance. If I step, it goes, uh-oh, I don't know what to do. Or, there you go, exactly. It just sits down and says, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do. Or, if I make a very quick turn, I don't know what to do. Exactly, where'd you go? So, JITA is great, though, at just carrying things around for you. Very simply, small movements. However, it's not slow. Imagine you're walking around, you got something you got to carry outside. I use the thing out trash all the time. I just don't want to carry it. So that's JITA. Again, single-purpose robot. The only thing this only thing it's good for is carrying stuff around. Now, if we were to put an AI brain in that, it could do other things. It very well might say no. So the next robot that we're going to talk about is a multi-purpose robot. The next robot is Spot from Boston Dynamics. Spot can do anything that we tell it to. Spot, why don't you come up here, buddy?
Imagine Maria inside this, right?
Yep. Imagine Maria. Spot loves cameras. Feel free to take video, whatever you want. Spot is very, very sophisticated. However, he does what we tell him to. We have a brain that we can put on Spot. In that brain, we can then drop an AI. Spot is so smart. When Boston Dynamics built him, they built him using Python. Very simple, very basic coding language. If you can code in Python, you can get Spot to do it for you. Whatever it is you're trying to do. He has an arm attachment that can go on top of him. That can open doors. Can go up and down stairs. We have a question at the IRP of, can he mow my lawn? Absolutely. Let's put a height sensor on there and put one of those little robotic mowers on there, and now he'll walk around, measure every single blade of grass, and cut it down to what size you want. Some guy decided he wanted Spot to be his refill robot. So he trained it so that whenever he had a cup in his hand, if he set the cup on the ground, Spot would walk over to it and refill it for him. If you can think it, Spot can do it. Very simple. So Spot, that is dropping dramatically. When it first came out, Spot, as you see, it was about $75,000. That was about 2 years ago. Now it's down to about $30,000. They are dropping rapidly because other companies are now starting to come out and mass produce them. But this is available to the public. So Spot, could you take a step forward?
How does that get information?
How does it get information?
Trying to know something to walk around.
So it is covered in sensors and cameras. Absolutely. There is 360-degree cameras on this thing. You can do inside, outside, good weather, bad weather. It's weather resistant. Spot was just used. Everybody knows what SpaceX is? You know, Elon Musk's space program. I want to say about a year or so ago, one of their rockets crashed on the landing pad. Within 5 minutes of crashing, flames still everywhere, fire retardant materials, there's no way you want a human going in there. Spot was on the scene, taking measurements, taking readings, walking right in the middle of it, zero issues. So I'm going to send him to do his thing here. Hopefully he can...
And imagine this as a force multiplier, right? I mean, one of the things the Future Command said is in the future, we hope in 2040 that first contact is not shedding blood, but first contact is robot versus robot. That war will still be bloody. We're still going to need people to have the resolve to go those last 500 meters. But initial contact, why would we send people onto a beachhead under heavy fire when we could send, for instance, right, hundreds of these with weapons on them, right? And Andrew, your idea, which was interesting, is right, if it's weapons out and someone tries to attack it, what could you do to this?
Real simple, just blow yourself up.
Yeah, put C4 on it, whatever, someone's on it, blows up. So this, again, you're talking about a different way of thinking about tactics in future warfare.
Does that throw out a detectable signal, or is it all?
It's this model, yes. This model is all run by Wi-Fi connection.
That throws out a single signal.
Correct. So another big use for Spot would be for security. You can have Spot map out your perimeter of an area and say, hey, go guard this area for me, just like this. Spot, guard the room.
Just like any dog.
Yeah, the typical dog. What was that? So Spot, there's a couple different ways you can recharge Spot. Spot can recharge himself. He likes kittens. He's a huge show off. He's a flirt too. Gotta be careful with him sometimes. But Spot can. Try this again. Spot, go patrol the room. There we go. We decided he was going to dance first. That's great, Spot. There we go.
And Andrew, your hand's not on anything. He's totally autonomous.
So you tell Spot, okay, you map out an area. Once you're done mapping out, you put a camera system on him, which we already have. PTZ camera, pan, tilt, zoom, has 30-time zoom on it. It can do infrared, it can do night vision, it can do facial recognition, which we showed. And we say, hey, if you see somebody in an area that we don't want anybody, send an alert. You don't have to worry about Spot falling asleep. You don't have to worry about him missing things. Again, night vision, infrared cameras, all at the same time. And he just knows what he's told. No arguing. For the most part.
Until Maria Bot's on there.
And what happens if something gets in his way? He finds his own way around. He figures it out.
What's the range at which you can control that?
So I can manually control it as long as I can connect to it via Wi-Fi. So in other words, it's a couple hundred yards. Yeah. However, like right now, let's like map an area, program it, and tell everything to do is.
I got it. Oh, you got it.
See, I'm not touching it. He's controlling the room. Probably gonna show off. He's also show off. You can see he's got some very good balance.
So Andrew, your vision of a technology like this, 2040, right? What do you think it could get to? The ability to not have to be close to it, to have it run on a brain. Like, what do you think could happen?
What can happen with these things? What do you want to happen? This is the answer. Anything that you want it to do, he can do. It's just that simple.
So could we deploy maybe 100 of these on a beachhead, be far away someday with the brain on them?
I mean, we're already doing that with our drones. There's no reason we can't do it with Spots. Imagine bad guys out on the field looking for a beachhead, let's say. And as they're looking, there's an army of these coming at you. 250 of them coming at you. This thing's not slow. All right, I've got it very set speed low. It can run. Imagine 200 of those running directly at you with a machine gun on the back firing at you. And even if you take out 2 or 3 of them, what damage did you really do to the enemy? He's in Florida. He's sipping a Mai Tai while he's trying to blow you up. What did you actually do? Nothing. We have people say, oh, I'm a big guy, I'll take him out. Well, he's got a C4 strapped to him. As soon as you get close, remember 360 cameras, night vision, infrared. As soon as it detects a person where there should be a person, boom, no more person. Again, didn't affect us at all. Yes, ma'am.
Are the Chinese more advanced in robotics than in AI than we are?
Are they more advanced in AI and robotics than we are? Really, I'll let you.
Well, again, when you look at the Chinese, one advantage that we will have, and will continue to have, is it's a closed society, right? It's information, right? And information is king. So as long as we have decision dominance, and we're able to have decision dominance, we'll be fine. I wouldn't say that they're ahead of us. They put a lot of propaganda that they're ahead of us, right? The things you see on TV does not mean that they're real. There are Russian robots that are flying around in cars, hitting targets, and they're like, look at our awesome robot. They're fighting Ukraine. I'm like, hey, where's that awesome robot I saw for the last 10 years? That thing should be able to take everybody out. So, the classic, it's okay to be a doubting Thomas when it comes to technology. The Chinese and their propaganda is huge, right? One of the reasons that China is scary is because of the lack of ethical constraints. We will be, and we will continue to be, a virtue-based military. And our Futures Command has been clear about that. So though we have things like Spot, and we want to make sure that first contact is not a shedding of American blood, right? We know that war will always, at the end of the day, be a battle of wills. It will involve blood. It will involve us having discipline and being courageous. But at the end of the day, it is us remaining a virtuous military, an empathetic military that'll make us superior. So when you say, are they ahead? I don't see how they could be ahead in a closed society, because you need information. So like this robot here is only as good as it is now. It's when you put that brain into it and it's able to make strategic, so let's put an example. You put General Ridgway, General Omar Bradley's brain together in that robot and you send it on a mission and it's making strategic decisions based on that. Or the Chinese have one here that just does what this does. Ours is going to be superior. Think about North Korea. You can't say anything bad about, I mean, if you look at their supreme commander, they have him walking out of the womb, right? He automatically was this perfect being. You're not going to get very far with that and being able to make information weaponized. We're able to take information because we are an open society. For all of our problems that we have and all the ethics we have, it's our greatest strength. Our diversity is our strength. But what we're lacking right now is the ability to be respectful of each other of that. And we have to keep remembering that we are Americans and that red, blue state and all this kind of thinking has to go away, right? We have to start thinking as Americans that have just different perspectives. So no, I'm not worried. I'm not even worried about the Chinese that perspective. What we need to be worried about is our ability to have our forces in the Indo-Pacific that can contest the Chinese, right? So that's the hard part, because right now we have a transparent battlefield coming up. There'll be nowhere for us to hide. It's not the old days where you could build a big old airstrip, right, and leave it there and say, there it is, and there's our big base. We need to be mobile, we need to be moving, and knowing that they know where we are. What they can't know is understanding what we're doing. How do we have them not understand? How can we be deceptive? How can we use deception? And that's a big difference going into the year 2040, because it is a transparent battlefield. And you see now, if you go online, things that were top secret 10 years ago, you're seeing satellite images like that today, right? You want to learn about the Ukraine war, you go on some websites, you go. I mean, during my dad's time, my dad was up in the Aleutian Islands, and he was a classified person that was looking at Russian aircraft. He looks at this stuff now and goes, my God, that's clearer, crisper than anything that we had, and it was super classified, yeah? So the work that Andrew does and the work that they do over in the Futures Lab is really critical to what's happening at the Army War College as we move into the new building. And Andrew just is an amazing person. Andrew has gone out in public with us at other places and just talked to people about his vision of AI and how we can mesh the artificial intelligence with AI to really be a force multiplier for our military and really enhance the performance of our commanders. Anything else, Andrew?
I'd like to ask one last question, because we're just about running out of time.
Yes, sir.
So with Spot and Maria Bot, how are they protected against hacking?
Go ahead.
So Spot currently uses Wi-Fi encryption just like anything else. So Spot, this version of Spot uses Wi-Fi encryption because that's what we use to control him is wireless. So if you can hack a wireless signal, technically you could hack in and control Spot. Again, we're not deploying these versions of Spot in the field. We're not deploying this version of Spot out into the field. So the versions that you would see out there would have much, much stronger encryption. They would be much harder to hack, if at all possible. Maybe 1 or 2 countries in the world that could do it. But realistically with Spot, you're not gonna hack them.
And with Maria Bot, we use the Microsoft Cloud right now, and it's very secure. And we're every day checking. There's checks every single day. So for instance, we just found out, I just got a notice that I think we had a little attack on our system, so that's why our thing was shut down. So the text I got was, it was a Microsoft Cloud thing, so we shut it down immediately. So the difference, that shows you a problem that we have. We're trying to make it localized, right? Because if we have denial of service, we should be able to run Maria right on the computer. I'm just not wealthy enough yet to have that computer. So that's what we're trying to get to. Let me have, let's see if at least we can have her say goodbye to everyone and see if she's in a good mood. What do you say, Neva? Can you at least say goodbye to everyone? Let's see if I can spell one word right. You do realize when I get home and I put these on, they'll be like, hey, Billy, how are you? Wasn't that great? I'll be like, oh, yes, of course. Let's see if she can.
Of course, Dr. Berry. It has been a pleasure to be part of this remarkable and thoughtful learning experience. I want to thank everyone for their respect and kindness. Go America. Of course, Dr. Berry. It has been a pleasure to be part of this learning experience.
See,
I
that's,
would like to thank everyone for their participation and for being so respectful and kind. Thank you all for being here today and for your enthusiasm. Go
so
America.
it'll be interesting. Do we have 3 more minutes, sir? May I have 3 more minutes? And if you want to stay afterwards and play with Maria and actually get into it, I'll stay as long as you want to stay. I just want to show you what it's going to look like, hopefully within the next 3 weeks. This is Emma and Maria to explain to you what they look like. This is what they look like and what they do. This is their text.
Hi, Dr. Barry. Hi, Dr. Maria.
Dr.
Hi,
Maria's my wife.
Maria. Hi, Dr. Barry.
It's going to be a successful day. Be confident.
We usually do this at
Remember to
Procter &
breathe
Gamble.
and enjoy the moment.
Billy and Maria, remember, we all have specific roles to help you succeed as your artificial intelligence teaching assistant and decision support team. Adam is your motivation coach and helps you to get energized for the day. Emma and my job are to process, interpret, organize, structure, and synthesize data to make it into meaningful information useful to your needs. So, this means we transform data into usable information. This provides context to the data.
The difference between what Maria does and what I do is how we interpret and present the data. Maria interprets data through utilitarian ethics, you know, the greatest good principle. I interpret it through deontological ethics, meaning the intention is more important than the outcome. In plain terms, Maria sees the world through an ends justifies the means lens, and I see the world through a means justifies the ends. The result is Maria and I reach conclusions and make predictions, in different ways.
This makes us a powerful AI decision support team to you. Your job, Billy, is to use your practical wisdom in concert with your morals and ethics as your compass to ultimately decide what action to take in the world. We recommend, and you make the ultimate decision.
Billy and Maria, our job is to make sure we identify when information we provide you with may be propaganda or possible misinformation or disinformation. We still provide you with the information, but with a warning. We will not provide you with information we identify as racist, pornographic, or vulgar. Keep in mind, by following this rule you instructed us to follow, it may limit the range of information you receive. In some situations, such as in military or police issues, this information that is filtered out may be critical. This is a limitation you might need to solve.
Yes.
Okay, Billy and Maria, I'm ready to go live with the audience when you are.
We already went.
It's important, if people are going to gain practical wisdom, they experience, or at least observe, interacting with an artificial intelligence being with no preset questions or scripts, and see how we perform in the wild. I know from our conversations, this is the most anxious time for you, because you do not know how we will respond to people, or what questions we will ask people. Remember, you can trust me because of my ethical training, and I tell people I don't know something if I can't understand what is being asked, or can't find a suitable answer. No worries, Dr. Barry. You know us. We may be illogical sometimes, but we are always respectful and kind. That's right.
I know what that is.
Bye-bye, Maria and Billy.
Bye.
Maria will take it from here.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
And that's what we would have done beforehand, and now that you know where they come from. So just looking at our objectives, think to yourself, what are some ways, and if you can, my email, I'll provide it to you. Send me any ideas you have, especially, sir, like you being in former command and education, ideas that you had as you saw to help us improve this, and or if we can be a service to you at your school, right, as an outreach. Because our job at Work College is to reach out to communities and help our communities be better as well. But as you have ideas, or if you have, like, sir, you might have an idea, please send it in so we can get better, because we want to get this ready to participate in war games next year and help our commanders. But I hope today the one thing you take away from this is intelligence augmentation can be life-affirming, need-fulfilling, and performance-enhancing. If we take the time to make sure it's respectful of the ethical constructs that we have, we stick true to our American doctrine and our virtue-based military, and we have a belief in the American experiment and the American dream, and then we'll be in really good shape. And again, I want to thank Andrew for a great presentation today. Thank you, everybody.